Paul from Geeks Love Dogs here, and I am attempting to shoot my monthly wrap-up video, which is going to be very late because I've had a very problematic week. And speaking of problematic weeks, I want to real quick shout out to my buddy. Get well, you know who you are. Hope you feel better. On top of that, my phone decided that its battery was going to completely fail on me, and so it doesn't shoot for long before it completely dies. I have to keep it plugged in, and that's been a bit of a problem trying to figure out how to logistically do this. I'm only shooting with my phone. I don't have a camera. I don't have a microphone. That's why I have to shoot like this. If I turned it around and tried to shoot a video from a distance where you can see me, you'd never be able to hear me. I have no equipment. I'm just kind of doing this with what I have available. If you guys out there can give me some advice on cameras and microphones and such, I'd love to hear it. Tell me what you use. Tell me what I should invest in. Give me some advice. I'd appreciate it greatly. So in any case, like I said, I'm doing my monthly wrap up, and as usual, my monthly wrap up is going to be rushed and a mess and a disaster because for some reason, something always goes wrong when I'm trying to shoot that. And I appreciate you hanging around and checking it out, even though it's kind of a disaster. On another note, me and the wife are actually going to be able to go to Pulp Fest. We worked it out, got all the logistics out of the way. We'll be bringing one of the puppies with us. If you're going to be there, maybe we'll get to see you. That out of the way, we're going to do our monthly wrap-up. This will be our monthly wrap-up for April. There won't be a Good, the Bad, and the Books this week. I will have to double up on it next week because of all the things that have happened this week that, life gets in the way kind of deal. And honestly, I didn't read as much as I usually do, so next week's Good, Bad, and the Books will be a little longer, but it won't be double because I didn't get as much reading done as I'd like. But let's talk about April. Let's finish it up and talk about what I've read. I did read Scott A. Ferguson Sr.'s Escape. And I did a video for this. There's a review video up if you want to know more. Scott A. Ferguson Sr. is a retired Secret Service agent who decided to become a writer. And this is his newest one. And this is a YA book that is alternative history, historical fiction. The first half of it feels a little bit like The Man in the High Castle meets Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. The second half has a little more action, where it gets its name from, Escape. And they attempt to make their escape from a military fascist ruled country. And it's actually pretty interesting. I think the sweet spot on it is probably 12 to 14-year-olds. But if you enjoy this kind of story, if this is something that you sounds like you'd be interested in, please read it. I enjoyed it. There's no reason that just because it's YA, if you like the subject matter, you shouldn't read it. But yeah, definitely I think that's the sweet spot, 12 to 14-year-olds. There's a lot of questions and conversation that can be had by reading this book. Like I said, check out the video if you want to learn more. Anyway, check it out because we like to support independent authors. And I read The No Mask Murder by Akamitsu Tagaki. This is a classic Japanese locked door mystery. The story itself is pretty good. What I liked about it is it has this unique storytelling point of view. You've seen things similar with how Watson tells Sherlock stories, but there's a little bit of a twist on it, what makes it really interesting. If you're a mystery fan, you might get a kick out of it. I had a problem with how convoluted the locked door portion of it was. It felt a little Scooby-Doo-ish, but otherwise the story as a whole was pretty good, and I enjoyed it. And like I said, I liked the interesting twist they put on the point of view storytelling on it. It just made it feel a little different than what you'd normally read, and that was kind of cool. I also read Pen Pal by Dathan Auerbach. This is supposed to be a horror story. I'm going to go ahead and say less horror, more creepy thriller. It is told from the point of view of an adult looking back and telling the story of his childhood and what happened to him. There might be triggers in there if you're sensitive to child harm, child fear, but it is not by any means over the top. If you're a normal horror reader, this will be kind of tame for you. And I put it in, like I said, the category of creepy thriller more than horror. It has some really good stuff. There's some moments that were really creepy and enjoyable. It also had a couple moments that made me kind of take a breath and roll my eyes a little bit, but I'm kind of jaded, so maybe don't go by me. There is kind of a back and forth on how good this book is. Some people love it, some people hate it. I think it's a matter of what you go in expecting and what kind of reader you are. This is all told as one point of view from a flashback of the adult telling the story of his childhood. I do know that days later I was still thinking about it, so that's a positive, and I didn't think it was a bad book at all. I enjoyed my time with it. I don't think I'd reread it. I think it was a decent book. I also read Starship Seasons by Eric Brown. This is actually all 4 of his Starship books, spring, winter, summer, fall, in one bind up. They don't take place consecutively in a year. It's spaced out over several years. This is a really enjoyable book. I almost want to call it a cozy sci-fi, but I think that's doing it a disservice because a lot of people have a certain stigma when it comes to using the word cozy when it comes to things. Let's say it's a very comfortable, enjoyable sci-fi that you can kind of sink into. You're not going to break your brain on the hard science. There are some cool mysteries, some cool stories. Each season has its own unique story that builds on the relationships from the previous story. The characters in the stories that you meet and you hang out with are really enjoyable, really likable, unique, and I really, really enjoyed this book and want to read more Rick Brown. If you're a sci-fi fan who wants a good book to take on vacation or for a beach read, this is that kind of book. In preparation for Mark Lawrence's final book in the Library trilogy, I read his book Missing Pages, which is a collection of short stories in that world, in that universe, which were overdue. Returns About Pain and Tabula Rasa. Tabula Rasa is brand new and exclusive to this collection right now. The other three are available elsewhere. It was a lot of fun, really enjoyed it. And like I said, that was in preparation for his final book in the Library trilogy, the book that held her heart. And I love this series right from the first book, which was my favorite of the series. And whether you love or hate Mark Lawrence's work, you have to admit that he's original. Every one of his series feels very different from each other, even the two interconnected series he's done, and he very much does his own thing. This is not a fantasy author who uses tropes or imitates other authors. He has a very unique style. It's very original, very intelligent. The books are not dumbed down by any means, so it does take a little effort on your part. I got through this series over the last 3 years. He also writes very quickly, so you never have to worry about him waiting 13 years to find out if he's going to put out the next book like certain other authors. Not that I want to mention any names, but in any case, great series. I also did a long overdue reread of Burning Chrome by William Gibson. This is one of the pillars of cyberpunk, along with his book Neuromancer and Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash, that built the cyberpunk wave of the 1980s and 90s. It's a book of short stories. He has a couple that he does with other authors, and the book overall is very atmospheric. Most of the stories are a way to build the imagery and the ideas upon which cyberpunk was built. When you picture a cyberpunk scene, or when you see a cyberpunk scene, that imagery, that world, it's these stories that created that imagery that was built upon for the cyberpunk aesthetic. Some of the passages feel like you're actually like reading slam poetry. Some of them feel like you're sitting in a Pink Floyd laser show where you're just letting the imagery wash all over you. The stories themselves are secondary to the feel and the atmosphere and the world building that's being created here. And if you want to see that beginning, you want to experience where that came from and what that was built from, then it's a good way to do it is reading this. There are some stories in there that have more of a narrative to them. That's what you're looking for. The story Johnny Mnemonic came from there. You might know that one, may have heard of it, might have seen the movie that was based on it with Keanu Reeves. My personal favorites were the last two, Dogfight and the self-titled title track, so to speak, Burning Chrome. I thought those were really well done. I really enjoyed those. But overall, Burning Chrome is something you go into for more of an experience than you do looking for storytelling or plot and character. You go in for the atmosphere, the feel, the experience of seeing the beginnings of cyberpunk. Overall, I'm glad I reread it because I really didn't remember it and I wanted that experience again. So that was fun. It was nice to go back and experience that one more time. I was supposed to read An East Wind Coming by Arthur Byron Cover, but I accidentally picked this out, and it's the third book in the series, not the first one. So I went back and found the first book on my shelf and read this instead, Autumn Angels. And oh boy, this was maybe been the weirdest book I've ever read in my life. It was just wow. And I really want to do a deep dive, Cliff Notes style book report on this and shoot it as a video. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. I might give it a try, shoot it and see how it looks, how it comes out. But there's so much here that I don't even know where to begin. Like I said, other than just telling the story of what happened in this book and letting the chips fall where they may. But yeah, this was weird. I mean, there's a story behind even the cover artist, so we'll see. I'm going to give it a shot, and if I post it I'll post it, and if not, you'll know it just was too much. And I also read Cold Death, my first Doc Savage book by Kenneth Robeson. Sadly, I did not love this. I wanted so desperately to get into these old pulp heroes. I want to read the Spider and the Phantom, the Green Hornet, all those guys. That's feels like something up my alley, but I just did not enjoy this. I could not get into the storytelling and the prose of it. It felt really of its time, written in the 1930s, is a precursor to, say, Batman and Superman. And if you ever read 1940s comics, they're very, very simple, very, very straightforward, very young written, and I was just not able to connect with it. And that makes me sad. I have another one I'm going to try, and I'll probably still try the others. I have a Spider book of the Spider, I should say, on my reader. So I'm going to check those out. And I'm sad I just could not connect with this book at all. I'm hoping to do better with it in the future. I also had an idea that I wanted to read Ron Goulart for the first time. He's known for his weird sci-fi, but I was going to read through a few books and try and do a video reviewing the first time I read through some Ron Goulart. And so I actually started with not one of his sci-fi books, but his John Easy Mystery #2, Too Sweet to Die. It's only one I have, #2, so back then you really didn't need to worry about progression. They were story of the week kind of deals. And so I read that to start. And then I read one of his sci-fi, Suicide Inc. Interesting cover. And I also finished, this will actually go into the May books, but I'm going to show you. Third book is Galaxy Jane. So I read that. It's another sci-fi book. And I read those, and I'm hoping to do a video talking about those, reviewing Ron Goulart, my experience reading Ron Goulart. Let me tell you, it's an experience, whether it's good or bad, you might have to show up for. But either way, it wasn't exactly what I was expecting. Come back, I get that when I managed to get that video shot, it might take a little effort. I'm going to have to go back and take some notes and stuff. I should have done it along the way, because holding 3 books in your head is not easy, especially when you're reading other things. I'm hoping to get that done. I also read One Punch Man 29. I'm getting a little bored with this because of the year-long battle I've been having without any plot or character progression. So sadly, I did not love that. I also read Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the IDW collection, volume 2. I like my turtles like I like my Marvel heroes, street level stuff. This started touching on the space stuff, which I don't love, so it just didn't appeal to me as much. I mean, but it's still Ninja Turtles, and it's great art, good writing. Kevin Eastman's still working on it, so I really can't complain. But it just was not the way I want my Turtles to be. So I'm going to go on, move on to the next one eventually, and hopefully it's more street-level battles, and I don't have to worry about the spacey stuff. Not that I don't like sci-fi and spacey stuff, because I do. I just like my superheroes firmly on the ground. So touching on my electronic reads, I read The Wolf of the North. That's book #1 in the Wolf of the North trilogy by Duncan M. Hamilton. It's Viking style fantasy, and it was a really good story. What I enjoy about this is I'm a little burned out on the 1,000-page epics in fantasy, and this was very straight to the point, without all the fat and without all the bloat. It's just a straightforward, easy to read fantasy story. The tropes are there, sure. Its first book is being told by a storyteller who's sitting in a tavern, and he's telling the story of this character. And the first book covers his childhood, the events that create and form what he'll be in the future. You've been there, you've seen the tropes, but it's still good. It's still done really well. It's still enjoyable. And if you want a fast read fantasy, and you don't want to sit through thousands of pages of details about what dinner was like and about the politics of the kingdom, this is small scale, centers on the characters in this one Viking style village. Really enjoyable. Really liked it, and I'm going to go back and finish the series. Also read an ebook, and with audio as well, Damn Glad to Meet You, My 7 Decades in the Hollywood Trenches by Tim Matheson. This is an autobiography about Tim Matheson. Not sure if you know who he is or not, but he's been in Hollywood as an actor, a director, a producer, well, for 7 decades. He started out in Leave It to Beaver. He was the voice of Johnny Quest. He was Otter in Animal House. He was in West Wing. He's in that show, Virgin River. He's been around a long time, done a lot of things. He's worked with everyone from Lucille Ball, Jackie Gleason, and Bob Hope, to Steven Spielberg, to Jim Belushi, and on and on and on. And this was an incredibly interesting story. I really enjoyed. I kept wanting to go back to the audiobook. He's really charming. He's really funny. And I suppose his time on Johnny Quest really helped him with his oration and his ability to tell a story. It was just really well done. I really, really loved it. It's one of the best autobiographies I've ever read as far as just pure enjoyment went. If you're into Hollywood autobiographies, if you're into Hollywood history, then you might really get a kick out of this. There's some really funny stories, some really interesting stories and backgrounds and things that happened that I had no idea. So if you're into that, check it out. It's really worth the read. I also read on ebook Knock Knock by S.P. Miskowski. S.P. Miskowski wrote a Southern Gothic horror story, but set in the state of Washington, in the rural backwoods of Washington. And it's basically just a simple Southern Gothic story about three girls who make a pact in the woods and something follows them back. And it tells the story as they grow up, as this thing that followed them back shadows them into their adulthood and what happens in their lives, how it influences them. There's actually sequels to these. Apparently, I've never seen them. I probably won't go back to it. It was an okay read if you're into stuff like Blackwater, which is better, and Witching Hour by Anne Rice, which is also better. But if that's the kind of storytelling you like, you'd probably like this. It's very laid back. The horror is few and far between. It's more creepy than horrific. But yeah, if you're into Southern Gothic, creepy horror type books, this might be something you want to check out. Sadly, though, I think it's out of print, so you might have trouble locating it. It's not even sold on ebook anymore. I have some old copies I had backed up and was able to read it. I'm not sure if you'll be able to find it except maybe in a used bookstore. If it's up your alley, though, check it out. Now, we want to pick out Book of the Month for April. So, Tim Matheson's I'm Glad to Meet You could definitely be in the running, and is. As is Wolf of the North by Duncan M. Hamilton. The book that held their heart is in the running, and so is Starship Seasons. So what, though, will be my book of the month? I am going to have to say it's Starship Seasons. Because of the uniqueness of it, because I've never read anything with quite this feel, and just my overall enjoyment of my time in it, and my desire to constantly go back to it, it's going to have to go to this. And trust me, some of those other books I mentioned just now could easily have won it, but you gotta pick something, and this is going to be my choice. It was a really fun read. It was really unique for sci-fi, and I just enjoyed my time with this book. So anyway, talking about the channel for the month, I did, like I said, do a review of Escape. I did a spotlight on Michael Slade's Special X crime noir horror serial killer series, which is a great series, and if you're into it, check out the video, check out the series. I read it in the 80s and 90s. Most of them are still available. Some of them he's reprinting. But yeah, check out the video, see if it's something, if you're into serial killers, if you're into crime, horror, check out the video, learn more, see if it's for you. I also did a whole bunch, a metric crap ton of book hauls this month, and they're all out there over the last month that you can check out if you want. There's a lot of good stuff that came in there. If you're in the book hauls, go back and check them out. I did paperback book hauls, several of them, vintage paperback, crime, horror, sci-fi, all that good stuff, as well as my standard Amazon, Barnes & Noble book hauls, which, by the way, you were surprised if you look how much interesting stuff you can find that's not mainstream on Amazon. You just gotta watch some other YouTubers who don't want to just promote mainstream authors and talk about the slick stuff that's on end caps at Barnes & Noble when you walk in. There's some good stuff out there. So in any case, I also did my TBR video for May this month, which I did a little differently because I'm doing it as Marvelous Mayhem halfway to Halloween month. So I changed up my game for this month, and I will go back to the regular game next month. But I still kind of made a game out of it in order to make it a little fun, picking out what I was going to read for the month. So if you're into that, check it out. See what I'm going to read for May. See if maybe there's something you want to follow along with, read with me, catches your attention, and let me know. We can talk about it. Maybe you can read along with me. So that will be the April wrap up. Appreciate you guys being here so much. The fact that anybody wants to watch my videos is just a thrill for me. Please comment. That's why I'm here. I want to talk to people about books. I want to hear your opinions about books. Whether you think I'm right or wrong, I'm okay with that. In any case, just remember, the secret to Zen: read books, pet dogs, listen to heavy metal, and come back here and join me next time, okay? Have a good one. Bye.